Unless you have been hiding it very well, I don't think you're making $1 trillion or have $1 trillion pay package. I certainly am not. But even with my salary, I'm sure with your salary, at any job I've ever had, from a minimum wage job on, I've been given the job requirements. Here's what you do, and then in exchange, we pay you. If you don't fulfill these tasks, you're out of here. I mean, Elon Musk, with this $1 trillion pay package, have they put any guardrails on what he needs to do? Have they said, hey, you need to be a little less controversial? Hey, you need to be a little less erratic? Hey, you need to be a little less of an absentee CEO? I mean, what does that look like?
In answer to your question, yes and no. On the first part, yes, there are very specific requirements that have to be fulfilled over the next decade. One of them, and I'll start with the absolute easiest one, is that by 2035, Tesla needs to have sold cumulatively 20 million vehicles. That's an incredibly low bar. There was a time not so long ago where Elon claimed Tesla was going to be selling 20 million vehicles a year. That has been watered down remarkably. So getting to 20 million cumulative sales by 2035 is not going to be difficult. The company's already, their cumulative sales are in excess of about 8 million right now. So essentially over the next decade, that's like, 1 point something million a year. That's not a particularly challenging target. So that's a little silly. He has to sell 1 million of his bots. And this is where it gets very curious, because in the language laid out by the board, they didn't specify Optimus robots or humanoid robots. It just says 1 million bots. Maybe they begin to claim that the cars themselves are the bots. So that one's kind of a funny one. They need to have 1 million active subscribers to Tesla FSD. It's been murky in terms of how many people actually subscribe right now. That may or may not be a difficult target depending on where things currently stand. So that one we really don't know. A big one, though, is getting the market cap up to $8.5 trillion, which would be, pretty dramatic increase. It's already one of the highest market cap companies in the world at about 1.5 trillion and change, depending on where the stock is on any given day. So those are some of the specific targets. Now, one investor that I did talk to that you mentioned, Ross Gerber, he actually found these very disappointing and a little too weak, because they're not as clear in many cases. In the last pay package in 2018, there actually were a whole series of far more specific targets on financial metrics, both sales volume, earnings margin, profitability, things like that, that were actually seemed a little tougher. So his issue was these are pretty vague, many of them, other than something specific like the market cap, for example, or cumulative EV sales. So on that ground, there are hard targets he must accomplish, a whole series of them over the next decade, to get the entirety of this massive 420 something million award of new shares. On the latter point that you ask, in terms of his behavior and how much time he's spending at the company, that's not addressed in this whatsoever. Clearly, the board has just made a decision. It's impossible to require Elon Musk to only do one or two things, and they're not even going to try. I think Robin Denham, the chair, when she was on with CNBC a week or two ago, mentioned, a lot of CEOs like to play golf. Elon likes to start companies. So that's what he does for fun, which was the way she, sort of, framed it. Sure, that I guess that makes sense. But again, one might argue that actually playing golf is a good thing, because it's a form of relaxation and you get rid of stress and get out in the outdoors, and it's a way to disconnect for a time. Tesla's going through a very fraught period. There's a lot of competition across all of its business lines. In EVs, the Chinese now are far more aggressive and competitive than ever, and they're outdoing Tesla in the Chinese market and in global markets. In autonomous vehicles, Waymo is the de facto leader of that technology, not Tesla. So in the case of AI, you've got OpenAI and certainly what Google and Meta and a range of other companies are doing. that are arguably, ahead of where Musk's XAI is right now. So in all of his future business plans, not one of them would Tesla be defined as the clear leader of the future. That's very different than, a decade or more ago in electric vehicles, where Tesla really was the de facto leader. So as we think about what's going to happen and unfold over the next decade, it's very tough to make the argument that Tesla is going to be the unchallenged dominant leader in these new technologies, and that's really at the core to his comp package, that he's going to be able to turn the company into the global leader in these new businesses.